Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, same-sex marriage celebrates 10 years. Also, are Republicans making the same mistakes Democrats did? And Texas Governor Abbott vetoes a dumb bill. He just blows it up.
Well, that ought to do it.
Yep, and Alabama lawmakers, they passed the same dumb bill. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and the one and only, the fabulous Josh Moan, investigative reporter and columnist at APR.
These introductions are getting better and better every time. I love it.
Hey, I do want to give a shout out and prayers and all that to Anthony Daniel and his wife. Anthony, his wife donated a kidney to him, and
she sure did.
And it's going well, and they are
better
home
than
from the
expected.
hospital.
Better than expected.
Josh, you talk with Anthony quite a bit. He's doing well, right?
Yeah, he is. I consider Anthony to be a friend of mine, and he's a good dude, and he's been going through it for the last several months, and hopefully this is the start of a nice little turnaround. He's out of the hospital days ahead of schedule. They're recovering. Both he and his wife are recovering in Birmingham, and so they will be hanging around UAB there, so they can get to the hospital quickly if they need to. But for now, they're there, man, and everything has gone absolutely as great as anybody could have hoped for, and I hope that this is a good little turnaround for them.
And they have a great marriage, so much that she now is part of him.
Exactly,
I mean, it's really
exactly.
Amazing.
And we'll remind him of that often, I'm quite sure.
As she should. So many things happen in politics, from people's health to decisions they make. And, there's still a topic of conversation is that Lieutenant Governor Will Ainsworth has stepped aside and has endorsed Tommy Tuberville. And, people are still trying to make sense of that. A lot of people's lives changed because of that, because of the decision he made. But it was his decision to make, and he made it. I do believe that if he wants to, and he says he does, that there is a comeback for him. I don't think he's done with politics, and I don't think politics are done with him yet. So I think there's a pathway for him. And whether I agreed with his decision or not wasn't mine to make, but it was his. And I wish him all the luck in the world, and I do hope he re-enters the arena at some point. Susan?
Well, he's done such a great job of leadership, coalescing people together, getting bills to move the way they should move, getting people to, that are disagreeing to actually come together and form a compromise and stuff. I think that's not gonna go away. He's a very good leader, and I think we're gonna see him back in the arena again. I know he's planning on doing some things for the next 4 years to stay in the political arena, stay involved in politics. So we'll see how that goes.
I mean, Josh, I've never known a politician to plan out his career any better than Will Ainsworth. For nearly 10 years, he steadily waited his turn, took his time, built a coalition, had the right people behind him, and then poof, because Tuberville jumped in the race. And, look, Tuberville, people love him, but he is never prepared to be in government. So he's going to have to learn on the job.
Yeah, it's a whole different life than I think what most of us expected out of the next several years. Because I think most people kind of just assumed that Will Ainsworth was going to ascend, and I think Will Ainsworth assumed that he was just going to ascend in the natural progression of going from the legislature into the lieutenant governor's role, and then on up into being governor, and I think that's what a lot of people were counting on. And now you've got Tuberville there, and it's really is a wild card. And of course he's not governor yet.
No.
There's still a lot of things that can happen. There's a long way between now and election day, and there's still a long way between now and qualifying.
Yeah,
it is up. The end of qualifying, it doesn't end until January of this coming year, and so there's a lot of things that can happen in that span of time that could really alter the landscape, and all of these for sure things that people talk about aren't quite so sure anymore. And so we shall see. I've told people before, I like Will. We disagree on a lot of things, but we agree on some things as well. And I do like the way that he's been able to kind of, as Susan mentioned, build a coalition of folks and for different things and really get some things done.
Well, he was young. He was the next generation
Mm-hmm.
of leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going back to Kay Ivey generation.
Yeah.
Listen, Kay Ivey's been a great governor. People disagree with me on that, but I like the way Governor Ivey has run the state. Something really extraordinary has been happening without little fanfare in Alabama,
Mm-hmm.
and that is the Innovate Alabama. It's a program, a private government partnership that basically serves as an incubator for tech talent in Alabama, with the goal of not only bringing these companies up, but keeping the talent here, Susan, rather than them leaving like we did to go somewhere else to make a living.
Mm-hmm. They have so many different programs. It's a vast effort. One of my favorite ones, though, is the one where they are on university campuses and provide for students who want to start their own business,
Right.
to keep them from getting a college education and then leaving the state.
Right.
To start a business, they go ahead and start investing in them in college to start and keep the business in the state, which I think is fascinating. I think they've spent $100 million in funding.
Yeah.
It's impacted over 5,000 students just in the last
And they're
few
in,
years.
they're in 38 counties, Josh. I mean, this doesn't get enough publicity, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. No, it doesn't. Because we do have a big problem. We hear people talk often about the brain drain in this state, where our best and our brightest, get their high school diplomas and they head off to college somewhere out of state, or even if they get a college degree here in state, they take those diplomas and they head off somewhere out of state to work because there are better opportunities and there are better things for their families outside of the state. And whatever we can do, and I like the idea Susan talked about, getting them early and helping them open businesses in this state, because look, that doesn't just help them, it helps the entire state.
Yes.
It helps everybody here. If those businesses are here, there's a lot more opportunities for people to hang around, and a lot more opportunity for the people who are getting degrees like theirs to also stay and work in those companies.
Well, and this was the purpose of this. It's being led by Cynthia Crutchfield, who actually started she graduated with a degree in software engineering, and she left. She spent years in California and other places in that field, but she came home, and she's heading up this initiative. And I spoke with her the other day, and what a bright person, and I think the right person to lead this initiative. And we wish her so much luck on this. But we're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
Your home is your most valuable asset. But what if someone tried to steal it from you? Property fraud is one of the fastest growing areas of fraud in the country today.
As a district attorney, I've seen firsthand the devastating effects of property fraud. That's why I'm proud to support the Montgomery County Probate Court's REACT program.
REACT is designed to protect your property and to give you peace of mind. By signing up, you'll receive an email notification if a document is filed against your property.
This program is a game changer. It has the potential to prevent fraud and protect countless homeowners throughout Montgomery County.
So don't wait. Sign up for REACT today and protect your home.
Protect your home with REACT. Sign up today.
Alabama has a hands-free driving law, and that means you can't hold your mobile phone while making a call. Oh, and no writing messages, recording, or watching videos either. Plus, you can only use a single button or swipe of a finger to answer a call. So what's a driver to do? Alabama's hands-free driving law is in effect. Follow it.
Welcome back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. Josh, you and I have written on this ad nauseum. So has Susan talked about it. But something happened last week that should be a wake-up call to our politicians here. The state of Texas, led by Governor Greg Abbott, the state of Texas tried to pass one of these draconian hemp laws like Alabama did, and Governor Greg Abbott vetoed it and said not only was it probably unconstitutional, that it was going to kill the hemp industry in Texas. And so he vetoed it, sent it back to him, said, come up with a better plan, because he doesn't want to put hemp businesses out of business. He doesn't want to hurt small business owners. He doesn't want to hurt farmers. He doesn't want to hurt people who depend on this particular plant for their health and mental health. And so, Josh, the great state of Texas said no.
Yeah. You know, man, it's, you know, I keep, every time we talk about this, I go back to those early days of gambling in the state and think about, you know, because it's along the same lines here of, you know, we had a legal business that we were operating. People were praising it and talking about how wonderful things were. And everybody was abiding by the laws and everything was moving along. And then all of a sudden we started raiding places and it was illegal and they were the scum of the earth. And it's kind of the same way with these hemp businesses at this point. You know, I talked to Jennifer Boozer, who runs Canabama in Mobile. And, you know, listening to her talk, she's so educated and knowledgeable about the products and trying to help people and what products can help people the best depending on their ailments and the things that the folks that come to her for these things and to watch them dismantle. She's going to lose her business. It's closing. Yeah. It's done. It's over. She's going to lose this business that she's built up and spent her the last several years trying to build from the ground up. And, you know, what kills me about the whole thing, like with gambling as well, is the people have spoken on this, okay? Yeah. They want these products. They want these products for their health. They want these products just to simply enjoy the products like people do with alcoholic beverages, okay? And that no one bats an eye about. They prefer these things because they offer a number of benefits outside of the harm and some of the things that happen with alcoholic beverages. Mm-hmm. And so the younger people especially have chosen these different products, these hemp products, as their means for whatever. And a lot of people who cannot get relief from painkillers and other sorts of drugs out there have chosen these things to lessen their pain and deal with life. And they've just thrown this whole thing away and they've done it for money. And you can see it. It's plain as day because there's no other logical explanation. There's none.
And not only just for pain, but also relief of symptoms from Parkinson's disease, multiple sclerosis, epilepsy. Well, I mean, there's the treatments that hemp are providing is something that the pharmaceutical business cannot.
And look, they bow down to the alcohol lobby. And they bow down to the marijuana lobby because most places where hemp is illegal, weed is legal. Mm-hmm. But they really did this on such a whim and an emotional appeal. Andy Witt, representative who wrote this bill, just got his little panties in such a wad over this. And they all bent over and voted with him. And this was a Frankenstein of a bill. It is not a good bill.
You don't know who can sell it. You don't know where it can be sold. There's nothing definitive in that. They've got 2 different dates where it becomes July 1st, January 1st. There's 2 different dates in there where it becomes illegal, where they're actually going to have the process in there.
Yeah.
It's just confusing.
They've already started raiding places because they were told they had marijuana. Well, guess what? Having marijuana is a lot less illegal than having hemp after July 1st because of our brilliant attorney general who's decided to prosecute people after January 1st. But just think about this. This is a Class C felony, right? For possessing a hemp product that was legal, still legal today, and possessing fentanyl is a Class D felony, Josh. You know that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nuts, man. The whole thing is just insanity. Honestly, it really is. And like I said, there's no reasoning, there's no rationale for this. There's nothing you can point to outside of the money was coming in from the alcohol lobby and from the medical marijuana folks. And I mean, not that we actually have a medical marijuana industry in this state because they can't get the damn thing passed, but or figured out how to issue licenses for anybody. And so. But it's just absurd. The absurdity of this whole thing is just off the charts. And they're going to put out hundreds of businesses around the state are going to go out of business.
Thousands.
And these are not. Yeah, these are not like criminals.
No.
They're not at all criminals. They follow the laws. They follow the regulations. As a matter of fact, most of them have asked for more regulations so we can further regulate people to make sure that they're giving out quality products.
But they did not want to do away with the smokables because that represents 80 to 90% of their business. We got just about a minute and a half, but I want to hit this next thing. Josh, you talked about it. This group is making the same mistakes that Democrats did when they lost everything. What they did is they consolidated power. They didn't listen to anyone. They did exactly as they wanted to do and just said to heck with what the people wanted. And eventually the people got sick of it and threw them out of office. Josh, I mean, we got about a minute.
Yeah, no, it's exactly what happened with the Democrats. They concentrated power at the very top. They shut out some Democrats that were very popular with people, and they refused to. They're kicking people off the ballot left and right. Does that sound familiar to anybody?
Yeah.
When we limiting ballot access to people and not giving folks the right to vote on who they want to choose. Those sorts of things end up alienating a large group of people. You can, especially in this state where. We defy anybody to tell us what we're going to do at any point, which is why I'm also not so sure that Tommy Tuberville is going to end up being governor here, because everybody's telling folks that this is who's going to be governor. And at some point, the people of Alabama end up revolting. And that's what's going to happen to the Republican Party when they continue to do this, like the hemp stuff, the overtime tax repeal, gambling, those sorts of things that are very popular with people. And you keep shirking and not paying attention to what people are talking about, you're going to have some problems, man.
I mean, Susan, this is how parties die, when they take control and they allow no one else to have say.
They do. And I know Josh preaches this all the time, but people are going to have to get out and vote. And I know that the people who watch us are voters.
Yeah.
But we had a special election this last week where in a district of 45,000 people, only 8,000 people plus showed up.
Yeah. That was it.
That's 8%.
That is not rule of the people.
No.
That's rule of the few.
But I tell you, some of them may start waking up.
We're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
Alabama has a hands-free driving law, and that means you can't hold your mobile phone while making a call. Oh, and no writing messages, recording, or watching videos either. Plus, you can only use a single button or swipe of a finger to answer a call. So what's a driver to do? Alabama's hands-free driving law is in effect. Follow it.
Welcome back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. Well, June 26th marked the 10th anniversary of same-sex marriage being legal in the United States. And since then, the far right has done everything they can to destroy that happy union. This is an old story and where they just won't leave people alone, because there's no way that these people's gay marriage is messing with their marriage or their adultery or their they're fighting and killing each other over money. But Susan, just as black marriage, the interracial marriage was once illegal in this country under the 14th Amendment, this same-sex marriage became legal. It's legal around the world and in countries that acknowledge facts and reality.
Well, there's your problem right there. America, acknowledging facts and reality, especially Republicans at this thing. I mean, they're not, leave people alone, for God's sake. We just talked about the hemp bill. We got the abortion bills. Leave people alone. I mean, this is not affecting your marriage. This is not affecting, children. It's not endangering children. It's not endangering the public. It's two people that love each other and want to spend time together, simply want the same rights that other people have as far as being able to be on their insurance or being able to be in the room with their partner when they're dying because they're not considered immediate family.
I mean, Josh, gay people have fought this issue in this country for a long, long time. I think Justice Clarence Thomas, one of the most despicable human beings I've ever had the displeasure to have to watch, he thinks that ALGOP Befeld should be overturned, and he says this as a guy who benefits from Loving, which was the decision the Supreme Court made that allowed interracial marriage. But he brings up every issue that was settled under the 14th Amendment to say it should be overturned, except for that one. Except for that one. Hypocrisy. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I liked it a whole lot better when he never talked, and so it was honestly, I'll say it again. The Democrats have got to go back to this mind your own damn business mindset of things and this moniker of freedom and really, really push the fact that they are the party of freedom and freedoms, where the Republicans have latched onto this thing and they continue to try to push it, but it's the opposite of that. And we all know it's the opposite of that, because there's no excuse for somebody in this day and age. I mean, how little do you have to have going on at your house where you're worried about what the hell two consenting adults are doing in their own place that's legal? As long as everything's legal and everybody's happy, what are you concerned yourself with over here? How is this hurting your marriage in any way, shape, or form? I mean, God forbid you should have to have a conversation with your kids every now and then and explain things. I know it's terrible, but listen, going back to this idea of freedom for people to love who they want to love and be happy where they want to be, to leave people the hell alone about the books, to leave people the hell alone about the transgender children, to leave people the hell alone, man, and mind your own business and live your life and everybody be happy and respect each other. Is that too much to ask?
Before the 80s, before Jerry Falwell, before the Christian Coalition and all that stuff, the Republican Party was the party of mind your own business. It has morphed into they're up in everybody's business all the time. And it's just a shame that and what's happened is, like the Ayatollahs in Tehran, like the Ayatollahs and the folks that run a lot of countries, maybe not Ayatollahs, but Islamic countries, they want you to live by a certain set of religious ideas that are theirs. They don't care that you may not share those ideas. But that's where this all comes from.
And here's the problem with that. Not only are they trying to enforce their ideals on it, but they're ignoring the real problems we have, like health care and feeding people and, just basic needs while they're going through all of this rhetoric.
Well, I guess we might flip over to the next graphic, Jonathan, because this budget that the House and Senate are trying to pass is going to take a lot of money away from poor folks and working class people because they're coming after Medicaid, they're coming after food stamps. I mean, Josh, if this budget goes through, many of the Trump voters in Alabama will suffer greatly.
Yeah, and I wanted to say quickly about the last topic
Okay.
as well. I hope people understand that the religious freedoms that we enjoy in this country, if we continue to shirk those things off, I think we've all got a pretty good look over the last week or so of what can happen if you don't enjoy those religious freedoms and you base your government on religion and are governed by religion. Because I think we all saw what could happen, no matter what side of things you're on. I'm not talking about who's right or wrong. I'm just saying these are the sorts of things where when religious freedoms are absent and you don't respect each other's and each other's beliefs, these are the sorts of things that happen, and we've seen it over the last week in the Middle East. And I don't. Speaking of religion, I don't know how you, on one hand, hold up your religion to say that these folks can't get married, and then on the other, say to hell with those kids that are hungry over there. Don't worry about them. We need to give some more tax breaks to Jeff Bezos so he can buy a bigger yacht. This is nuts, man. It's nuts. Who is for this? Who is there anything that y'all are going to stand up against? Is there anything at all where you're finally going to take a stand and say enough is enough of this nonsense of giving rich people money, and let's try it the different way because we know the other way has worked, because it's worked every single time the Democrats have employed it, every single time the economy has gotten better? Why don't you try that?
Yeah.
And also, it's going to increase the deficit 3.3 trillion with a T, not a M, not a B, a T over the next 10 years.
Where are the Republican fiscal hawks?
I have no idea.
They have turned chicken, I guess, is like cock of the walk. But
Feather duster.
it's just a shame that it's come to this, where the Republicans who know better, who have stood for fiscal sanity for years, and those who champion SNAP and Medicare and Medicaid are now running scared because they want to pass this big, beautiful bill to please the president.
And I got to say it one more time. Alabamians in Alabama, if they don't have the SNAP program, we're talking about 800,000 people just in this state going hungry.
And a lot of farmers who rely on that program to sell their goods will lose their farms. But we're going to have to leave it right there. You've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.